Our next featured composer is Elijah Daniel Smith. The Chicago native has enjoyed performances by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and the Peabody Symphony Orchestra, just to name two, and is currently pursuing a PhD in composition from Princeton. Give it up for Mr. Elijah Daniel Smith.
What have you found to be the most successful tools or pathways toward growing into yourself as a composer and not necessarily following the status quo or what's been done before?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to me as a composer from when I first started until now is of course exposing myself to as much as I can, listening to as much music as I possibly can, and not just putting it on in the background, but spending I had a teacher who was a really important teacher to me, Oscar Bettison, who sort of has this sort of rule that he gives to his students of like listen to an hour of music every day and actively listen to it, sit down, don't do anything else. And so that to me has been really important. Just the act of getting as much in my ears as possible, but then at the same time being willing to fail, in a sense, being willing to try something that you don't necessarily know if it's going to work out. I think that's incredibly important. And that's really difficult to do, especially in the context of an orchestra reading, because if you don't make the best use of it, of course, it feels like an opportunity wasted. But in order to do that, I think make music with your friends and make music with people that you like, make music with people who have a very different taste in music from you, and see what sorts of different things you can come up with and what you can learn from that. And I think that sort of approach to it has really informed the way I approach an orchestra in terms of making music with a bunch of people who think about music differently than I do, and hearing what they have to say about it and hearing them say, like, please don't ever make me do that again, or something like, that was a really cool thing. Like, what about these other things we can do with it? So along those lines, I think treating every musical engagement as an opportunity to interact with other people as people first and foremost, I think is maybe most important to me now, in terms of really getting rid of this like, oh, I'm the composer and you guys are gonna play my masterwork. I think that's thankfully an antiquated idea. So, and it's also just more fun to like make music with people. Like, I don't know why anyone would like not want to have that sort of fun experience. So yeah.
Spent so much time as people listening to music independently, in our headphones or as we're driving around in our cars. Why is the interpersonal aspect of music, of orchestral music, important to you? Why is it important to deal with physical people and not just digital technologies when it comes to creating music?
Yeah, I think in that context, live music is a shared experience in a way that listening to music on headphones isn't. And I think anyone who's ever been to a concert of any kind, they feel like you can feel the energy in the room in a way that you just don't when you're listening to music in headphones, because it's just you and the music, which is great and it's really important. It can be really, really nice. But at the same time, there's something really impactful and powerful, and for me cathartic, to listen to music with other people, to know that we're all feeling the same things, and like it makes music an interpersonal experience, and it makes it bigger than what it is on a sonic level. It makes it something that can bring people together, which is such a cliche thing to say, that music can bring people together, which it can, but I think in a very real sense, it creates a shared experience that I think for anyone who experiences it can be really impactful as a memory that they might have moving forward, or simply as an opportunity for them to share something with people that they care about, that they both enjoy. So in that regard, I think live music and live orchestra music will always, for me, have a special place because there's no other place where I can really go where it's just like I sit down and listen to this wall of sound, consume me and the people that I'm with for an hour or two, which I think is just awesome.
When it comes to the music of today and today's musical ecosystem, where do you see yourself in it? What is the story that you want to tell the world through your music, and how has ACO helped you connect yourself more deeply to that ecosystem of music of today?
I think the story I'm trying to tell with my music indirectly is that sometimes music can just be music. And especially at an orchestral level, there is this expectation that it has a grand statement to be made about the history of music and all this sort of stuff. And while that is true that it can do that, I think sometimes it's really important to have music that is just what it is. And so I think the ACO working with the musicians, working with the mentors, it allowed me to sort of understand my music in the context of reflect on what it is that I have to offer. And I think at this point in time, what it is that I want to offer people is it all has its deeper meaning to me on a personal level, and all of my music has something that it signifies to me, but that doesn't necessarily have to come across to an audience member in order for them to enjoy it. And I think this experience was very much it reinforced that, because the piece that ACO read has a very particular meaning to me, but it's not overtly in the music, and it was really encouraging to know that it didn't necessarily have to be conveyed through the music for people to be able to listen to it and say like, yeah, this is cool, I like it. So maybe I'm trying in my music to get out of my own head, and as a result, maybe offer the opinion that it's okay to write music that helps other people get out of their heads.
Talk a little bit about your EarShot experience. What aspects of EarShot do you think back on and consider the most useful to you as you move forward as a composer?
I think the feedback sessions with both the performers and the mentor composers were they stick out to me the most, because really diving into the nuts and bolts of my piece and the other participating composers' pieces is something that we don't really get an opportunity to do very often unless it's in the context of a composition seminar or something like that. And usually in those environments, it's only with other composers. But to be able to sit down with musicians who are playing our music and hear what they have to say and have and give us very direct feedback and say like, if you want to achieve this, these are the ways in which you can go about doing that. This is going to be difficult. That's going to be a good way to solve that problem. I think that specific experience, the ACO is the only place where I've really experienced that with an orchestra. And I think that is incredibly useful because even as a composer, the orchestra can be really intimidating, especially because there are so many different things that people talk about in terms of do's and don'ts. And it all seems like it's do or die because of how, the orchestra is such a huge thing to work with from a logistical standpoint. So getting to work with musicians and talk to them who are able to give us really good feedback in terms of like, here's a more efficient way to do that. Here are some things you can do here. That's something that I think every young composer, every composer of any, at any level, any point in their career, can gain a lot from. So in that regard, I think um, that experience was the one that I think will stick out for me going forward.
So when it comes to the broader mission and the broader purpose of an organization like ACO, it's easy to think about supporting ACO as a means of just doing that, supporting this organization. But from your perspective, supporting ACO and making sure that ACO's composer advancement programs continue on into the future, what is that person actually supporting? What's the broader impact or the broader implication of support for ACO?
Supporting ACO is simultaneously supporting the organization itself, but I think it's also it's investing in the careers of younger composers, and as a result, investing in composition as a viable career path in today's world. Because there are, of course, because the orchestra is what it is, opportunities like this are few and far between. And everyone that exists is incredibly important to keeping this particular musical medium alive. And I think the way ACO is handling that, the way ACO is doing it is unique and it's incredibly in depth. And that experience is vital to young composers recognizing that there is still something to do there. And so I think supporting ACO is supporting that experience, it's directly supporting the education of younger composers, and it's directly investing in the future of orchestral writing. Every musician in that room is there because they want to play new music, and there was never at any point in time something that no one asked them to do something that they were reluctant to do unless they physically couldn't. They were willing to really dive into anything that we offered up, and I think that is very different from most other orchestras, just because most other orchestras are like, yeah, okay, like we'll play this, but the thing that we want to play is the Beethoven 7 after this because that's more fun for us. So I think and of course there's a lot to unpack in terms of why that might be the culture of orchestras, and they signed up to play canonical classical music and sometimes are a little unhappy about having to play something other than that, but thankfully with the ACO they know what they were getting into and they got into it because they wanted to. And it's really, really nice and refreshing to work with an orchestra that is like, yeah, please come on, let's do it.